that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
Hello and welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host as always, Ian, along with my boys Isaiah.
Yo.
And Gavin.
What's up?
And today we are excited to talk about Tower of God, episode 10, Beyond the Sadness. So, right off the bat, dude, I just got to talk about Rack. Actually audibly laughing out loud like the entire episode. Like, I could not stop laughing every time he came on screen. It was the funniest freaking thing ever because I'm like, at first, like in the basically one of the first scenes when he's like knocking on the door, I'm like, why? I was like, okay, you only see like the fist, and then Kun answers the door and he's like, go find your dad somewhere else or something. And I'm like, is there literally a little one? Like, have we not realized that he is a kid that he just brought? And then like it shows the scene where he's like, move out of my way, nerd. And basically the guy shrinks him and he's like, oh, I didn't see you there. And dude, I just started bawling. I was laughing so freaking hard, dude. And just like, I love how he didn't go back to normal size in that episode the whole time, because I was expecting it to be short-lived, like, oh, it's only a little bit of time and then he poofs back to normal size. It's like, nope, he's just tiny now for God knows how long. And I was just cracking up, dude, every time he was on screen.
I love how they showed you the point of view of him shrinking too. It was just like how he's towering over this guy, and it's just like level by level him getting shorter, and it's just like, oh my god. Like, they did not hold back on that scene, and I couldn't have loved it even more than I did. It is so good.
Yeah, that shit that shit had me cracking up, dude, right off the bat. And I am noticing now, I'd like to say, so first of all, thank you for anyone who's a repeat customer, a repeat listener to this podcast from from when we started. If you've been a longtime fan, or if you've just hopped on with the Tower of God discussions, we've definitely gained a lot of traction since posting those. If you're here now, thank you so much if you were one of the people that commented your thoughts on it, because we've actually learned a lot from you guys over this past week, and I really do mean that. And what I've really learned is that apparently this anime really cuts a lot of material out of the webtoon in order to fit this into bite-sized episodes of 20 minutes. And like, I kind of expected that, like that usually happens with almost always happens with every anime, right? It's like they have to cut from the source material in order to fit, or they like cram things in. It's pretty common that happens. So I didn't really expect much different, but now that I've seen so many similar comments in this regard saying, like they're explaining like, oh, the reason why this happened, like why this is because this happened, which they explain in the webtoon, and like this, that, and the third. I really do appreciate those, because it's putting more shit into perspective for me watching the anime. I'm kind of living vicariously through the webtoon readers, and it's been very helpful. And I do understand. I'm getting it now. Like when I'm like with this episode in particular, I'm watching it now and I'm understanding. I'm like, okay, that's definitely something they skipped over in the webtoon. Like that was something they probably would have fleshed out, but they just didn't have the time, And I could be wrong, but like I would like to think that I'm getting privy to picking up on those things now. So thank you for everyone who's been commenting, and keep commenting, please, your thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Because it definitely goes a long way. But anyway, so we already explained Rack being tiny, which is hilarious. We briefly saw our friends whose names I forget. So if anyone has a name list up, you can help me out here. One of the princesses of Jihad, the one who originally helped Ban and gave him the Black March. We briefly go to her. Yes, thank you. Briefly go to her for like a split second with her squad, and it looks like the eel's dead, so that's cool. And they're like, let's hurry the fuck up, and that's literally all we see of them. So she's kind of on a mission now to, what I mean, like find Bam or do what has to be done. But then from there we get into I believe it is the funeral. Yes. So if anyone wants to take over talking about kind of the funeral and going from there, we have the funeral of Ho. Which is pretty significant scene. It's kind of spliced with the scene with Rachel, who now unfortunately is paralyzed. So I don't know if any of you guys had particular thoughts on that. I don't want to talk the entire episode.
Well, I mean, I just want to point out, like, real quick, Isaiah, you can go over the details. I just want to get more of the landscape, because I really liked how kind of the whole, like, funeral ground was set up, where it's like these weird, like, glass floors, but there's like thousands of them, like when they pan out, and it's just like a field full of them, and their bodies are just like visible, which is kind of weird. Like now that I think about it, like perspective wise, like you could just see them like underneath, and they're just like people all over the fucking place. But like I just thought that was like a cool like idea, like systematically, like for a graveyard. And yeah, I just wanted to put something in on like how they designed it and stuff like that because I just thought it looked really dope.
Yeah, no, it's definitely pretty cool. I don't think like they stay there though, because like even in the funeral scene, like you see once they leave, like Ho's body disappears. So I
Oh
think the
yeah,
physical grave
true.
stays there, but like
Yeah.
the body is not visible because like that'd be weird. Um, but yeah, so we have the funeral scene with Ho, which is really nice because you get to see once again, just Bam, like why he's got this, why he has the title of the protagonist, right? He is sort of like the unifying piece that brings this otherwise, pretty disjointed group of characters together, right? Everybody sort of has like their own underlying motivations for why they're here or what exactly it is they want, but it's like through Bam, everybody can sort of find that common good and that like one unifying front or idea of like we're all in this together. And again, it brings up the the what I imagine is going to be like the thematic debate of this. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be of the whole show or maybe even just the season, but this idea of like getting to, is getting to the tower and obtaining whatever power at the top of it, is that worth doing whatever it takes, or do you, if you have to step on top of people and push people aside to get ahead, is losing your humanity, like is there even worth climbing the tower after that? So again, it's this debate that has been going on since the beginning of the season, and it's nice to see that sort of cultivate once again. And it's really nice to even like, again, because with the last test that we had, like again, this world, like it's obvious, but like this world is not the same as our world, as the real world, right? So like there are quite frankly just things and ways of living that are like much more acceptable and than they are in the real world. And it's nice to see this sort of like really human moment amongst everybody, despite what everybody's personal reasons for being here are. So yeah, it was cool because you even have the I'm forgetting his name now, the blonde ranker, who comes in and like as they're all talking, he's like, do you mind if I say a prayer too? And like again, it was just this kind of like everybody shit aside, like for better or worse, this man died in this tower, like let's send him off. And then they have the nice little like I guess party, if that's what you want to call it, like after the fact, where everybody's drinking and stuff. And then you get to one of my favorite scenes actually, which is Bam and Rachel's conversation after the funeral, or like immediately after the funeral, but it's before like the after party moment, where more or less, and this is sort of what you were saying earlier, Ian, where it's like I wasn't privy to the anime doesn't make you privy to exactly like what Rachel's motivations are for either A, for being in the tower and wanting to go as far as she's going, but also B, to like sort of be in the mindset that she's in when we meet her, which is very much like she's like doesn't want anything bad to happen to really anybody, or especially Bam, but she's like also not willing to work with him and is like kind of trying to disregard him and his efforts to like be with her. And so this was really nice, and apparently again we got from people in the comments like that was Rachel in particular as a character, but also her motivations is something that was much more fleshed out in the comic than it is in the anime. But the scene was nice because it gave you that. You really like sort of, both Rachel and Bam's walls sort of come down in this moment, and you learn what it was that Rachel was doing here, which is more or less what we knew. But like again, it was like just to see her sort of like come blunt face to face with Bam about it, not putting up any charades or what have you. And like again, just another really nice human moment where Rachel, in this really desperate moment of just shame and desperation, is pleading with Bam that like she's okay now if he just leaves her and abandons her, because that's what she did. But again, Bam, strutting on his protagonist vibe, is not about to do that, because that's not Bam. We know Bam, he wouldn't leave anybody behind, ever, especially Rachel, because he makes a point to say that amongst all the friends he's made and all the people that he's met and learned about through this tower, none of them can replace Rachel. None of them are that ray of light that he saw in his, in his darkest hour, his darkest time, which it was nice. It was really touching. Yeah, and then we move on to, there's the, I don't know, I'll let somebody else talk about it, but I guess the scene where Shibisu was talking to the girl, like that was Ho's friend.
Yes, what was her name? I was gonna get onto this, and I
know.
cannot freaking remember. 'Cause you know what it is? I'm afraid to pull up the character list thing here because for some reason, like the site like that was pulling up all like the in-depth characters will tell you which ones are dead on it. Like they'll outline it with a certain color scheme, at least the website I was on. So I'm afraid to look at it because I'm like afraid to know if somebody dies. You know what I mean?
Whatever. People know what we're talking about. We're talking about Ho's friend,
Yes.
the girl who is leaving this episode.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. She's kind of skedaddling out of there, giving the old Irish goodbye, which means she's not saying goodbye at all, especially since everyone was drunk. That is literally the definition of an Irish goodbye. It's just yeeting out of there. Yeah, when everyone's just like stone cold dead from the alcohol consumption. But what's his name? The guy in the jumpsuit. Shibisu. Thank you. Stops her for a moment, doesn't try to necessarily stop her from leaving per se, but he's like, you're not even going to say goodbye. And, you know, they kind of have this moment. I love her character, by the way, just as a whole. I love these two characters actually a lot. And I love their interaction with each other because, like, out of everyone that we've seen in the tower for the most part, I feel like these are the two people that are like not necessarily the most human in like the way that they act, but the most limited, I would say, in like their power. And like the most human in terms of limitation from what I've seen in the show so far. And it's interesting, that they've survived this long, but it's like also interesting the interactions they have with each other and the speeches that they give and the monologues and all that kind of stuff, because it like, I guess it makes it a little more relatable watching it as a viewer, knowing that, you know, I don't have the ability to control Shizu or anything like that. So it's like, it makes sense, like a lot of things they're saying, and definitely is relatable. And again, she just kind of has this like little killer thing where she's like, you know, we gave Ho a proper send-off. I have no regrets. And then she pauses and then she's like, that's a lie. She's like, my life is nothing but regrets. You know what I mean? And she's like, I'm just going to try and buckle down and give life all that I've got. You know what I mean? Like this tower, like I got to know why I survived here. Like, because this tower has taught me something and it's definitely got to be for a reason, you know, like, and if I could find that reason, then I feel like that could carry me throughout life just so much better than I've already been conducting myself. And then, you know, our boy's basically like, you don't think you could find that here? You know what I mean? And she basically pauses and reflects for a second, and she gives him her dagger. She's like, keep good care of that, you know, promise you won't die. And he's like, I got you. And like, I don't know, that scene, that was probably one of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite scene in the show. 'Cause it's just like, it just hits home really hard. Like this, it's like this human struggle for like not just attaining power and like reaching the top of the tower, but like she's just trying to live her life better day by day. You know what I mean? And like she's trying to find the reasons why, you know, like that she's been able to succeed in the tower and like carry that over into everyday life, like knowing that she's not been incredibly gifted with some like godlike ability or like intellect or anything like that. She's just your average Joe. You know what I mean? It was really cool to just see that little conversation go down. But then from there, we get Kun, obviously scheming, because this is all this man does is scheme. It was just straight up fucking with everyone. He's fucking with directors. He's fucking with Bam. He's fucking with everyone. Every time, bro. Scheme. Every episode, this guy. You can't trust him, but he's really awesome to look at. But I wanted Gavin to know your thoughts on the dude that is basically like a sheep with two legs, kind of.
Oh,
being,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
So,
his shit?
dude,
Go ahead.
so that interaction, that erection, that was fucking weird. That interaction was actually awesome. So that sheep guy you're talking about, he is Royal Enforcement Division Unit number 67, or he also goes by Lopo by a Ren, and obviously, it's the first time this character's been introduced to us. Haven't really like seen of him, and he's just kind of like in this weird dark room, you know, like on a call with someone, pretty much going over and scheming and shit like that. And then all of a sudden, you got Han Sung, who is one of the administrators, if I'm not mistaken. He pretty much rolls up on him, and he's just like, bro, I got to talk to you more or less. And, you know, they had that whole like thing where he's like, oh, you want to fight, bitch? Like, I've always wanted to fight you. And he pulls out this huge monster. And the fucking administrator, he just like kind of looks at it and he's like, nah, B, like, I don't want to fight you, and just slices its fucking head off. And he's just like, oh shit, like, what's going to go down? And all of a sudden, like, it breaks down where Han Sung's like, yeah, no, I don't want to fight you. I more or less want to help you on your secret mission in getting, what's her name? Anak. He's more like I mean, the administrator has something against the ladies of jihad or whatever, however their names are. And they just, or princesses of jihad. And they I guess
in particular though, too.
Her in particular, she's like dangerous or something.
Well, it's that she was born, like, you can't be born into a princess of jihad. You have to be chosen. So her mother, like, fucked up and broke the rules by giving birth to her. I don't know if they explained that in the show or they did it in the comments, but regardless, I remember picking that up somewhere.
Yeah,
and like that's the beef. Yeah, okay, that's the beef. So like she's illegitimate. She's like basically spitting on the name of the princesses. So
got you. So then I guess they must be really fucking salty about that, and they don't want her to climb to power or something, or they see her as a threat in some sort. So they just feel like they need to team up and, you know, get rid of her. And I don't know, it's pretty sneaky shit going. Like, that just kind of breaks down the show, how it's like even administrators and like higher ups, they all have hidden motives and intentions, you know, like barring the whole test and exam and everything else going on. It's like everyone from Leo Rowe to fucking Bam to Kun to everyone, they all have their own shit going on. And it's like, it's weird because it's all solidified in this world. Everything's happening, and it's like they're there for each other, but they're not there for each other because they're also individuals, and they all have their own like greed and intentions and, you know, arrogance in a way for certain characters. But it's like they all need to coexist in this tower and like almost pass these tests together, but separate in a way. And as they advance further on, it's going to be very like cutthroat, I feel, especially, I mean, it's already been cutthroat, especially in some of the previous episodes, and it's only going to get worse. And, you know, people are going to be really trying to pull the rug out from each other. And I don't know, dude, it's going to be fucking crazy. And now you have, moving on in this episode, Kun talked to Leo Rowe about that like secret administrator test or whatever, and, you know, he's trying to pull that like move on it, and then all of a sudden, like, nobody knew that you had to be an irregular to now take this test, as I'll let one of you guys flesh out. And, you know, it's like, it's weird how there's these just layers of rules that nobody knows except for a certain amount of people, and it's like, it's so convoluted in the middle that you just don't know what the fuck's going to happen, because every 2 seconds just something gets flipped on its head, and everything that you thought you knew is now like irrelevant because of this weird like niche problem, and now only Bam can solve it. And it's like, oh wait, Bam can't take this test, but people can help him now. And it's like, all right, now people are going to go in, and I guess everybody's going to move forward because it's more or less a shortcut, you know, in the test, or so they say it is. So I'm really curious on what that's going to like rule out to. But I don't know. It's just crazy how like individualized everybody is, even the administrators, you know, but they're all like in this world together. That just kind of like boggles my mind in a way, you know. It's like that weird like power scaling stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too, because, you know, we see that once the group learns more or less that you can't take this administrator test unless you're in a regular, Bam reveals to everybody that he is an irregular. And I think it's stated like very briefly in the very early episodes of the show, but I don't remember. But regardless, if it isn't, it's explained now in full what irregulars are and what their place is in this world in juxtaposition to everybody else, who I guess i.e. are regulars. And they're actually given another test in the form of the ranker telling them that if they choose to help Bam, they will get the shortest, like the fastest shortcut route essentially to climb the tower, but they will all be labeled as associates to irregulars. So it's no, I guess, surprise that irregulars are labeled as somewhat of a minority in this world, because they're people who choose of their own volition to enter the tower rather than quote unquote being chosen by, by whoever it is that makes that decision. Or they could not help him and, continue climbing the tower on their own. And again, a really nice scene where you sort of like more or less everybody in their own way get, see that you see like the payoff, right? Or the payback, where it's like Bam has helped each and every one of these people in some way, shape, or form since he's been in the tower. So more or less, again, in everybody's own words, unifyingly agreeing to stick with Bam and help him climb the tower, which is cool.
Absolutely. Like you said before, Bam is almost, obviously established as the protagonist, so this makes sense, but he's essentially the glue, you know what I mean? That's kind of, bringing everyone together. And it's also interesting too, because, the tower in and of itself kind of, and this world that these characters reside in almost molds you into like this heartlessness, you know what I mean? Where it's like, and Derosi had to basically kill all of her homies, and like, like all these people have just no problem stepping on each other. And it's, it's cool how Bam has been able to come from like pretty shitty circumstances, but like bring these people together in such a way where it's like their ambitions of being on top of the tower alone are almost put to the wayside for a second, you know what I mean? In service of helping someone who's helped them. And that's very cool to see as a viewer, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's impressive, right? Because you've been able to sway not one, but like multiple minds to this way of thinking. And that definitely speaks volumes of, to Bam as a character, you know what I mean? Definitely with some help of some underhanded shit by Kun, but not even really like at the end, right? Because they all make fun of him for his third-rate acting, apparently, or at least most of them anyway, are like, yeah, we saw that shit. Like, we're going to help him. You don't even have to convince us. You know what I mean? That was really like heartwarming to see for sure there at the end. So then from there, we go, all good points, by the way. And again, I want to just state how funny Rack looks when he's tiny, because I'm fucking looking at him right now and cracking up. But anyway, so then we get to literally the last part of the, because the instructor says that all we have to left is to await Bam's results. So basically, Bam is in this, like, God knows where. I couldn't even tell you. It's like he's in.
I don't think he knows.
I don't even think he knows, right? So I'm not even going to try and attempt to explain it. But he basically opens his eyes and sees Mr. fucking Eyeball, who takes up the entire fucking screen, who we've seen in a previous episode, it's like 1 or 2, 3 episodes ago, where he has to make like a pact or something, like as part of his training.
Wave controllers, like are essentially given access to control Shinsu. They have to make a contract with whatever the name of that thing is, and from research of the show, to my understanding, it's split up into basically, I don't know if it's split up into like floors or like it's different levels, but essentially like entry level wave controllers make a pact with, like, again, whatever this demon deity monster thing is, and then he essentially gives them like if you think about it, like basic access to controlling Shinsu. And then like once they either, I guess, ascend to a certain, like, ascend a certain number of floors or get to a certain like level in strength, they make like a different pact with like another. It's like this whole, like, sort of building tower kind of thing. But yeah, I'm assuming that that's the one that Bam made a contract with, because he refers to him, or when he references him, he says hello again, or like, you know what I mean, some implication that they've met before. So I'm assuming that in this that obviously he's either going to be like the initiator or play some significant role in the administrator test. Assuming that you can't even get in the door unless you're in a regular. But yeah, and then that's pretty much it. Just sort of cuts to black. At that moment.
For sure. Somebody commented on Crunchyroll, they go, the mother of all cliffhangers.
It was a really good cliffhanger.
Yeah, for real. I'm really stoked. I want to see that thing's full form. If you know what I mean, like I want to see what that thing is, just in general, because it just seems menacing as all hell, and like how powerful the thing actually is. But again, obviously, so many questions being brought up. Like 2 questions are answered and 30 more are raised, which is the norm. Again, not reading the webtoon as of yet, I'm starting to understand why that's so happening so often. But it's still exciting to see in the anime, especially as people who haven't read it yet. It's definitely a surprise to all of us as we go. But that's the episode for you guys. That is our thoughts on it. As always, let us know in the comments below what you thought about this episode, what you think about the series as a whole, if there's anything that we missed, if there's anything in the webtoon that further fleshes out something that the anime did not, as regards to this episode. Don't spoil anything. But, beyond that, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It really goes a long way. Follow on your favorite podcast platforms, on social media, and hit us up on Patreon. All the links are in the description down below. But until next time, guys, we will catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for listening. Peace.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Hey folks, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our new episodes.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AoA Podcast if you want to keep up with our content or suggest new ideas for the show.
You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week to talk about all things anime.
Ninjas are samurais, blazing the cool knives. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls.